Hey guys, my name is Jim Cracchiolo, and I'm the Director of Learning Your Function Incorporated, also known as LYF Inc. Today we are going to learn about a teaching method that people have been using in the school system for a long time. It's a fantastic way to engage students, a multitude of students within a classroom in different activities. It's called the Centers Approach, and we're going to get into it right now. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we'll get started. Okay. So guys, we are going to talk about an approach today called the Centers Approach. Very, very simple. And basically, this is something that you can take into your classroom to make your classroom a more efficient, more effective place to learn. If we do anything for any reason, we do it for our students. But a great secondary way of doing things for our students is doing it with an approach that makes it easier for us to organize what we're doing and for them to receive the information. And so, like it says here in the subtitle, it makes your life easier. There's no better way to consolidate the idea of the centers approach other than if you put the time in initially, then the rest of the process goes smoothly. We're going to look at this in terms of monthly planning from a curriculum standpoint. But before we jump into applying the centers approach, we are going to learn what a center is. Learning centers are multiple self-contained sections of the classroom in which students engage in independent and or assisted learning activities. Centers typically involve a rotation. So what's that mean? We look at the picture here and we see groups of students doing different things in different spaces of the classroom. These individuals here doing a more independent activity, something that's more fun, maybe a little bit more reinforcing. Over here, we have individuals doing an activity. Here, they're sitting down doing an activity, and over here, they're doing an activity. So this can be done in so many different ways, and you're going to see just a couple different ways to do that. Obviously, creativity will lend itself to this. This is something that can be done at all levels, therapeutic, supported, and independent level classrooms. You'll see the benefits of each one. I think the benefits are slightly different, but also the same for the different levels when we apply the centers approach. So again, you've done this in your school. Think about back when you were in school, your teacher would have different groups. You guys would do one activity and then switch and then switch. So for example, these individuals here, after they were done playing Connect Four, they would move over to this table. These guys would move to this table, these guys to this table, and these guys to Connect Four. So you can do this in a range of times, and you can do this with a range of subject areas. So we're going to get right into it. Purpose of centers, basically, our number one goal is to engage students. You guys should know at this point what engage stands for. We're going to go over that in just a minute. But in order to engage students to the maximum ability, we are going to try to give you ideas that allow you to do that. If you have a group of students in a classroom and you're lecturing, think about when you were in school. Lecturing, you're going to have that group in the middle that's listening, that's paying attention. They're in and out of engagement, but they're listening. Especially if you have things like, if you think about when you were in school, things like notes to kind of keep you aware, or little checks here and there. The teachers that just did straight lecture, they are outliers. Okay, they're people who are doing super good and super bad with that lecture. Those that were super bad, they're putting their heads down. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. They maybe do that because they have processing issues, maybe because they have ADHD, maybe because it's boring. Okay, maybe because human beings only retain so much information, and only can do it for so long. Those at the highest realm, they might do really well and be able to absorb it all with fewer notes and all those things. But I think that you have what's called a negatively skewed distribution in that particular situation, where you have these individuals who are doing very little to a little bit to then those few people that are doing a lot in a boring situation in a classroom that you are trying to engage all students at one time. That's a difficult task. We want you to engage students, but to do it in such a way that you are engaging all students at one time, the center's approach allows you to do that a lot more productively. And you can see those students that are doing well at engaging and those that need more assistance. So multiple practice opportunities. So basically, you're going to see that when you set up centers for a month, there might be some revision in terms of additional skills being taught within the center, but the individual is going to be able to practice things over and over and over again. I think that's something that we forget sometimes. A teacher that comes up with a really good idea and presents it to their students and they do it one time, that student's not going to learn. I don't care if they have a disability or not. An individual has to be exposed to something over and over and over and over again until they have that learning, whether they have a disability or not. And so our students mandatorily have to have those things over and over again. So the center's approach allows for those multiple practice opportunities. We talked about building blocks. If you're thinking a subject over the course of 4 weeks, if you were to do something with that with that curriculum subject over the course of 4 weeks, you start at the very foundational area. Let's take laundry. Laundry is something that is an October curriculum area. Laundry, the building blocks of laundry, I think, are separating clothes from the whites and the colors. And so if you teach that skill the first week that you are engaging in these centers, they have, say, 5 different opportunities to practice that. Whether you're at the therapeutic level or the independent level, that's going to be beneficial for every classroom. And then we start understanding those building blocks. What's next after separating the clothes in the curriculum of laundry? Probably putting them in the laundry machine, the washing machine. Okay, well, that's a very foundational building block. We're now what's next? Next week, maybe the dryer. Okay, we're 3rd weekend, we're working on the dryer. 4th weekend, maybe we're taking them out, maybe we're folding them. So all of those blocks put together make a fantastic independent life skill, which is doing the laundry. But the center's approach allows you to break those things down into those building blocks so that you can build off of them, either within a single rotation or throughout the weeks of multiple rotations. So again, we'll talk about it here, but building blocks definitely allow you to, the center's approach allows you to break down the different curriculum, the different goals that you might have for your clients. And it makes organizing easier. We're talking about making your life easier. When you have a center approach and the center snapshot template that I'll show you, and you guys will fill out as a team in your classroom after you're done watching this, the center's approach is a great way to understand how your students are going to access the curriculum, how they are going to be goal focused, but also how you can monitor their progress, therefore being able to fill out provider documentation, your goal tracking, etc. But it's also, once you do it at the beginning of the month, you're going to see that it's autopilot. The rest of the month, all you do is take out that same thing, that same setup that you had, or a slightly modified version of that setup each week, which typically can be done without a whole lot of additional prep. So you're going to see throughout the process here, as we start talking about examples of how it makes your life easier, makes organizing easier. Engaging through centers. So we talk about engage often, and it should be in all of your classrooms in the sense of a poster, but doing the things in engage totally fit within the center's approach. And so let's just go through it. Expectations provided for each individual. If you have 4 stations, and those 4 stations are broken up into either different curriculum or a specific curriculum, and they're broken up into the building blocks like we just spoke about, there's an expectation at each group activity at each center. So very topically, the expectation should be well known, understood, and explained to your students. It is then their job each day of the week to go through those expectations. So pretty simple. Noticing student needs. So this goes along with grouping your students, which we'll talk about when we look at the center's snapshot. Grouping your students can be done a couple different ways. You can group them as a spectrum of students. So individuals who need more help and individuals who are more independent within the same group. That way they can kind of help each other. through the process. You could do it, you could group students by level. So you can have a more needy group, a lesser needy group, a more independent group. You can have it like that so that you can gauge the activity to push those students who have the ability and to support those students who do not. So overall, noticing student needs totally fits within the center's process. Being goal focused, as we talked about, centers being focused on curriculum, you have a goal. And we're going to see again on the center snapshot that you're, as a teacher, identifying what that goal is. Going back to laundry, what should their goal be for laundry by the end of the month? To do the laundry, to fold the clothes, to be able to separate by colors. That's pretty goal focused to me. So if you get the gist, then we're going to move along. Activities prepared and implemented, pretty self-explanatory. When you are creating the actual centers, there is going to be some preparation required. You are going to have to implement these centers as individual objects, and basically, once you create these 6 things, these 6 curriculum area centers for the course of the month, and yes, there might be some variation from week to week or as the students advance. But once you prepare those things, instead of preparing things every day, I have some people that come into the office every morning to copy something, to copy something, to copy something. I have individuals every day that attempt to recreate the wheel by introducing another lesson, another lesson, another lesson. But once you create these things, you're going to be able to have your students engage in these activities throughout the course of an entire month. That's 6 different curriculum areas throughout the course of an entire month. That is 6 preps that you do for an entire month for an entire classroom. Again, with little variations on noticing your student needs and with enhancing it as the week goes on, building onto the blocks that you've created. So when you think about it, it comes down to less work. When you do more work up front, you do less work later. So activities prepared and implemented is absolutely vital for doing this. Generating safety, you're going to have a better eye on your students. You're going to have them in groups. You're going to understand who's there, who's not there. You're going to understand individuals throughout the classroom as they move from place to place. It's going to generate safety in a lot of different ways. But just right off the bat with supervision, you are going to be able to keep a better eye on who is doing what. And that's important. A lot of classrooms that I have witnessed have issues are ones that are less organized. Those that a student, no matter what their level is, therapeutic or independent, that might slip out of class. That's just a center's approach won't allow for it. It won't allow for it as easily. You still have to be vigilant, but it'll definitely be a tool to assist you with that. And of course, emphasizing independence. If we look at a couple different ways that the center's approach can be done in terms of teacher involvement, the emphasis on independence is obvious. You're going to have certain centers be more independently driven than others. And right off the bat, that will emphasize independence. So engage totally fits within the center model. We're going to focus a little bit on goal-focused section of engage. The reason why is because it's one of the more difficult ones. It's one that when we do reviews and we're looking to see if individuals are fitting the engage or hitting the engage benchmarks, it's one that lacks sometimes if you don't have a structured classroom with the types of activities. I have people throwing worksheets at people. Okay, but are they goal focused? Is there a goal in mind? And you'll see again as we go to the center snapshot how it allows us to be focused on being goal focused. Overall, these are the curriculum areas that we are going to base centers off of. Each month, you are provided information in all of these areas: functional academics, literacy, cooking, self-determination, faith and character, and health and competition. These areas are the emails that you are receiving. You are receiving emails and you are receiving example activities. And through those curriculum and through the centers that facilitate those curriculums, you should be able to convey to a student what the goal is between the first day that they touch on, again, functional academic for October is laundry. If you sit down and you talk to a client and you say, or in the front of your classroom, you talk to all your clients, you say, hey, our functional academic for the month is laundry. It is my goal for you by the end of this month for you to be able to complete the laundry from start to finish. For some students, it might just be that they're going to separate colors from whites if they're in the therapeutic classroom. If they're in a therapeutic classroom, though, there's no reason why they can't hit a start button on the dryer or they can't hit a start button on the washing machine. So again, I'd like to be able to walk into any classroom and to understand what the goal for the students are in each of the classrooms, for each of the students, what the goals are for each of those clients when it comes to the 6 curriculum that we are conveying each month. And this is how we're going to do it through the center's approach. Teacher's expectation, you say to yourself, well, this is a lot of information. What am I supposed to do? Well, very simply, daily implementation. When you come in a day, you need to understand where your students are going to go and how they are going to be involved in the instruction for the day. You should be doing that now. The center's approach just makes that easier. So with daily implementation, what does that mean? That means that maybe you're touching on 3 of the 6 curriculum for 2 days a week. And maybe you're touching on the other 3 curriculum the other 2 days a week. Maybe on Friday's a review day. That understanding and that structure in your classroom makes it easier for you. You understand it's Monday. It's functional academics and literacy day. It's Tuesday. It's health and competition, and it's faith and character day. Health and competition can be its own thing that is spread out to outside specifically. So it's important to understand that there is a daily implementation aspect to this, just like you are to be engaging students on a daily basis. Our jobs are not to sit on a sideline while our students do the same things over and over and over again. Our job is to create the opportunity for our students to engage in some activity that will further them, that will progress them to some different height in their independence. So daily implementation is extremely important. To utilize resources, like we said, the monthly emails for curriculum. Those are sent to everybody. If you're not getting those, please let your campus director know. We'll make sure that you get those because those are essential. That gives you the key to understanding what it is you're going to be doing for the course of the month. And when you have a little bit of a drag or a lag time, or students did something a little bit faster than you thought they would, you can go back to that email and you can go to the next activity within the same curriculum. Materials. So accessing those materials. And yes, not every material will be on your campus. We do our best to get materials on the campus, but then at a certain point when you need those materials, to ask for them. A lot of these things, again, being done throughout the course of a month, you can start somewhere where you might not need that specialized material, but when you ask for it, it will be there by the 2nd week, by the 3rd week. Keeping it fresh, that means that we're not, again, doing the same thing over and over and over again. A little story from the high school that I worked at, there was a student transitioning from middle school. They were having a lot of behavior problems with her. The student was given the same puzzle at the middle school in a study carrel every day for the duration of her middle school term. I will say that maybe it was multi-year, like not even 1 year, it was multiple years. What happens if that was your life? We were giving you the same puzzle over and over and over again, expecting you to do it, breaking it up, doing it again. That's not what I expect for our students. That's not why people get paid here. That's not why we get paid to do things with our students. To keep it fresh means you see the curriculum, you see the progress a student is making, and you push that student to the next level. If a student needs to repeat a color versus whites separation for laundry throughout the course of a month, that's fine. We can keep that fresh. We can change it up. We can add hangers to it. We can add different piles or different, we can keep it fresh. But if a student progresses past that after the first week, they pass the test, the first week, then they shouldn't be separating clothes solely. throughout the rest of the month. They should be learning how to use the washer, learning how to use the dryer, learning how to fold the clothes, learning how to hang the clothes, ironing the clothes, different things. Different things. There's clothes at every campus. If you don't have any, we can get plenty. But those are things that can be done. And you can share with your other classrooms and all those things. It's very, very, very important to keep it fresh. And it's really demonstrative to the students' independence and their learning capability when we don't keep it fresh. Grouping students appropriately. When you see the center snapshot, you're going to completely understand how to group the students. A couple different ways to do that. Like I mentioned before, you can do the spectrum, where you have individuals helping more apt individuals helping those that have more needs within the same group, or you can group them by level, and you can have more teacher support in those levels that need the help. So there's different ways to do that. And then, of course, if you ever need student or peer support from a more independent level classroom, there's a specific student that really helps out your students at any time during the day. It's very, very important to involve them. Their assistance in the center's process can take your centers from just barely hanging on to succeeding, with flying colors. So make sure that you bring in that student peer support if needed. Obviously, talk to the teacher, talk to your campus director, make sure that's something that they're able to do and that they can do it safely, and we should be good to go. Couple quick variations on those groups and how you can structure them. We're going to get right into them. This is not the only 3-way you can do it. You can do it many, many different ways. But example 1, all students working independently at a variety of centers. So say you have 3-4 centers in the classroom. Students are broken up. They work at those centers independently, and the teachers rotate. So you have between 1 and 2 teachers in each classroom. They rotate around, and they make sure that all the students are getting the help that they need, staying on task, all of those things. Again, this is for a 15-20 minute period, and then they rotate, and then they rotate. Example 2, 1 group works with a teacher. So you have, say again, 3 or 4 center stations. You have a teacher at a station that might be the most difficult or might need the most direction. That teacher stays there, and the students move from one center to the next. When they get to that one, they work with the teacher, but when they're not, they are working independently in the groups of the other centers with the co-teacher oversight. So you have that additional teacher helping just make sure that those other students are staying on task. And example 3, 2 groups each working with a teacher and additional groups working independently. You guys get the vision on this one. You can go back to that picture that we saw on the first page or the second page of this presentation. Basically, you have those groups. A teacher is working with one group, a teacher is working with another group. The other 2, 1 or 2 or 3 stations are working independently. And then as you switch, the students get that support they need in the subject area that might require a little bit more assistance. So those are 3 variations. Again, there are other ways to do it, but we're almost to the center snapshot. I'm pretty excited here. Benefits of centers. Guys, additional practice is key for anybody to learn anything. People with disabilities absolutely have to have additional practice. If you go and you do something one time in a day, you never go back to it throughout the month, student's not going to master any type of goal, any type of skill, any type of independence. When you have a skill that an individual is doing 3 times a week for 4 weeks, the individual is going to have a better chance at grasping that skill, and they are going to show proficiency in it, and they're going to be able to be accountable in it. Our job is to make people independent so they can take these things and do them in other environments, whether that is on a job, whether that is in a home, whether that is on their own. And so what that means is that if we can get our students to have additional practice times for these skills, they are going to do better with them. Students are continuously engaged. If you, again, have that large classroom setup with a teacher in front, you are going to have a more difficult time engaging students than when students are spread throughout small groups, working together and doing activities or tasks that they find, exciting, interesting, fun, that have initiation and termination. They have a start and a finish, a clear start, clear finish. It's super, super exciting. And they will be engaged. Students are exposed to a variety of tasks within specific times. So again, whether you are working within one curriculum area, and 9:30 to 10:30 is that curriculum area, or 9:30 to 10:30 is functional academics and literacy. It's very, very important to understand when a student is doing what it is that they're doing. That center snapshot basically shows exactly what those students are doing and when they are doing it, and who they are with, and what their goal is. So, it's very, very important to get them to perform that variety, and that variety a lot of times will help engage the students further. Simple setup. One setup equals 5 opportunities. What that means is that you set up one time, and you could get 5 different groups in one sitting. One day, 1 hour, you can get 5 different groups to utilize that one setup. Imagine if you created all 6 setups, okay? Potentially 30 opportunities. That takes care of your month, if you have figured that out, because we have less than 30 days each month that we service the students. 5 times approximately 4, between 4 and 5, I should say. So between 20 and 25, opportunities, I'm sorry, days, and you have 30 opportunities, boom, you got your month figured out after figuring out 6 things. That is, to me, an easier way to do life. Responsibilities are evenly shared by teachers. This is going to be more on you to decide whether you're splitting up curriculum wise, or there's just different expectations overall. 1 month versus another month, et cetera, et cetera. But responsibilities are very easily doled out by teachers when you are able to understand what the expectations are for your students. Okay, guys, we're here. Very excited. The center snapshot. I believe in visuals, and it's gone. I'm just kidding. I hit the wrong button, so we'll go back to it. Just wanted to move myself out of the equation here. This is a very simple sheet. I'm going to lay it out for you, and we're going to knock it out right now. We're going to start, if it's okay, right here with the centers and the times. So you need to understand the best way for your students to experience the centers. Yeah, what time frame? Students who require or who have more needs, lower. It's better to have more centers, less time. So even if you were to go 5 10-minute sessions for groups like that, totally acceptable. These are ideas, and this sheet is meant to be malleable. If you have a more independent level classroom and you had 2 different groups, and they were going to do 2 different things with 2 different teachers, which is totally an option, it's going to look more like a 30-minute center. Okay, so it's a good idea to get an idea of what you are trying to get out of your students, and how many activities. Let's go up here to session times. So what we're going to do, this time tells you, okay, 4 15-minute centers is 1 session. Okay, so if that's going to be your first session of the day, okay, what time is it taking place? Maybe you get in, maybe at 9 o'clock, all the students get there. Maybe you guys go outside and do a quick walk or a morning meeting. So maybe your first session starts at 10 a.m. You allow that first hour for some outside time, for some morning meeting time, and then you're ready to go and do your first session. You dedicate that first session at 10 a.m. Okay. When is session 2 happening? Now, this can also happen on specific days. So maybe you have a session 1 and a session 2, but on different days, they are different curriculum. Okay. This is broken up by weeks. You can stick to a curriculum per week, per day. But again, this is just to give you ideas and to give you a springboard for organizing yourself and understanding how centers can be introduced to your students. So this says curriculum by week. So your FA, your L, your C, your HC, your FC, and your SD are going to go in these spaces. But remember, we want to try to touch on curriculum at least 2 times per month. Now, if you were going to take the whole first week and do functional academics and literacy, and that was going to be your focus for 5 days straight, then that's acceptable. You're going to do that for 5 days. Okay. You're going to maybe do 2 others over here. Maybe you do cooking during week 2 and faith and character. Okay. Here on week 3, your focus is going to be otherwise. But realize that maybe your week 4 is an overview of all of them. Okay. However you want to organize it, just make sure you're dedicating these curriculum areas to the week that you're going to be doing them within the month. If you fill this whole sheet out correctly, your month will be more efficient than you ever imagined, and you will finish the majority of the work that you have to do for your classroom in preparation, your activities prepared and implemented, the A in engage. You will finish it within the first day or two of the month, or even best practice before the month begins at the end of the previous month. So let's continue. Oh, I just got rid of it. So let's go back to it. Very simple. Next area, I think. At the end of the month, my students will be able to do what? This is where the goal-focused aspect comes into play. Let's go back to functional academic in October. You guys all know it's laundry. I beat it like a dead horse. Laundry as your functional academic. What is the goal for your students? It's going to be different for different levels, but maybe it is, in this, I don't have the usable version. I'm sorry. I keep getting out of it, but you're going to list here. You're going to list things like sorting by colors and whites. You're going to talk about utilizing the washer and the dryer. You're going to talk about folding the clothes, hanging the clothes, ironing the clothes. All of those different aspects. If you want to go into starching the clothes, if you have an independent level classroom, I don't starch my own clothes, but you get the gist. This is for literacy, what is your goal for literacy? Is it just to read the book? Or is it for your students to understand some vocab words? Maybe to learn new spelling words. Maybe it's to comprehend certain things, or you can go way outside the box, like, for example, the true story of the three little pigs. Most people know that story. If the literacy book is the true story of the three little pigs, maybe your goal for your students, again, maybe independent level, maybe supported level, is to tell a story from a different perspective. That's totally acceptable. It can be something as basic as the vocab words, but it could be more depending on your students, their interests, and your interests as their teacher. Again, cooking, health and competition, faith and character, and self-determination, always going to be filled out down here. The goal. What is the goal for your students for that month? Is it to complete worksheets? Because they can't take that skill and bring that into a different environment and do that independently. If it's to do a worksheet, we need to start rethinking how we are educating our students. And I know that you understand that because you've been in classes when you were in school that were boring. And you don't want your classroom to be boring. You want your classroom to be exciting. You want your classroom to be transformational to your student, to teach them independence. The center column, very simple. It's how you group your students. There are far more bars here than you'll need, far more spaces. But group one, very simple. You're going to have a group of students here, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 students, same as in group 2 and group 3 and group 4. And if you were crazy and you did a 5, you could do a 5. If I get a lot of interest in 5, 10-minute centers, you're probably going to have a group 5. Okay. 4 15-minute centers, you probably have this right here. Okay. So you guys get the gist. So let's move on to subject and activity. Pretty simple. This resembles our cover sheet a little bit from our new provider documentation. But basically, we have our different curriculum areas: functional academic, literacy, cooking, health and competition, faith and character, and self-determination. We have our subject, okay, which is that monthly curriculum overseen subject. October for functional academic, you know what it is. It's laundry. So we would say laundry here. What session is it happening in? So we go over here and we see what session is it happening in, okay? This is keeping you accountable. And we look at our different activities throughout the month that we're going to do, okay? Maybe activity 1 for laundry is sorting the colors and the whites. Maybe activity 2 is using the washing machine. Maybe activity 3 is using the dryer. Maybe activity 4 is folding the clothes. I know you've heard this over and over and over again, but it's that simple, guys. And you're not going to believe this. Once you do this for a month, say October, you have it for next October. So you already know what you're doing. A good teacher works smarter, not harder. Same thing for literacy. What activities are we doing? We're doing a read along. Are we doing a vocab? Are we doing a crossword? Are we doing what activities are we doing within the literacy subject? You know, and it goes throughout the different curriculum areas. It's that simple, not rocket science, but it makes you organized. And when you're organized, your classroom can be organized. And I guarantee you that your classroom will run smoother, faster, all of those things. You will have an easier time in your classroom. You will make life easier. So that is a center snapshot. It is today's responsibility. It is your responsibility after today's lesson presentation that you create a schedule utilizing the Life Centers template. Okay. So that center snapshot is going to be you and your co-teacher's job to create for the next month. Okay. Super excited to see them. I want to critique them. I want to see how to make them the best that they can be. I want to see if you implement them, because you can prepare the activity all day, as it says, engaged. In the A, activities prepared, then you have to implement them. So make sure that we don't forget to make your schedule student-centered, okay? Understand your students, realize that they have differences, realize that they might not be able to handle. Maybe it's easier for you to create two sessions, two centers at 30 minutes apiece because you only have to do two. But remember, if that's best for your students, if they're going to be able to focus for that long, maybe in some areas, but maybe not in others. Think about time frames that are best for your students. Do your students work better at the beginning of the day? Do they work better before lunch because they need a reinforcer? After lunch because they need a wake up? Think about those time frames that are best for your students. Make sure your activities correlate to the life curriculum areas. We did a whole couple slides on it, guys. Goal focused, being goal focused. There's a reason why we put so much work into the curriculum. And I know that not everybody uses it, but you will. You will start using it because it is best practice for our students. Remember the teachers that you had in school. Remember the ones that were good, and remember the ones that weren't good. Typically, the ones that let you do whatever you want and not do a whole lot of work, they might not have been your favorite teachers. Those ones that push you to new heights, those ones that taught you something, those ones that you still remember things from today, those are your favorite teachers. And remember to group your students appropriately. There's a lot of different ways to do it. If you need help with it, we're there for you. But make sure that you do these things, because if you don't forget these little items, then it'll make your center's experience far better for your students. So we have our center snapshot. Like I said, you'll be receiving a copy of this that you can modify. I'm super excited to see them. Super excited to see what changes you want to make to this sheet so that we can make it the most usable functional document for our students. And overall, I know that by utilizing centers in your classroom, it will make it a better classroom. This is something, again, it will happen in sessions. It will happen, and I think you're going to like it so much that you are going to implement it 5 days a week. Maybe you do it, maybe you start off with 2 or 3 or 4 days a week. But I almost guarantee you that you're going to like it so much, and you're going to see how easy it is, and your students are going to attend to it and cling to it, that you are going to really, really like it. So I really, really appreciate your time today. As always, please ask questions that you have in terms of what centers you have access to, your resources, all of those different items, the curriculum, any of those things that you have questions on, please let us know. And overall, those questions can go to your campus directors. They can go to your other teachers that you see implementing the center's approach correctly. They can go to Amy, myself, Miss Natalie, and we're overall very excited to see how you implement the center's process in your classroom. Make life easier for you. And we'll see you real soon. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye now.